My parents gave each of my brothers $50,000 when they graduated from university as a down payment on their home. When I graduated, they did not do the same for me. I asked about it and they said my husband should provide. I wasn't married. I still lived at home. 3 years later, I met my husband. We dated for a year and then we got engaged. My parents were overjoyed. When we set a date, they gave me a check for $50,000 to pay for the wedding. What the heck? I took the check and we eloped. We then used the check for a down payment on a house. My husband had a similar amount saved up, so we're in a good spot with equity. My parents were furious that they didn't have the big wedding for all their friends and family to attend. They said that they gave me that money for a wedding. My argument is that I got married and had leftover money. Accurate in my books. My brothers are on their side. Am I the idiot for accepting money from my parents for my wedding and then eloping? If they wanted to pay for a fancy wedding, they should have planned and paid for it themselves. Instead, they just gave you the money directly for a wedding. If you had $49,950 after paying $50 to the Justice of the Peace, well, I guess you planned better than they did. You are not the idiot. If, for example, this money was set aside for education, I'd judge you incorrectly. But $50K for a wedding when your brothers got that same amount for a home is outrageous. Seriously, what the heck were they thinking? Hi, daughter dear. Rather than give you $50K to set you up quite comfortably, housing-wise, we want you to burn through it for a single day, called a wedding. You see, you have melons up top, rather than ping pong balls and a sausage down below. So what on earth makes you think you need financial security? Us, parents, having fun at that party and being able to brag about it for decades is way more important. Misogyny aside, I also loathe the fact that they wouldn't have given it to you if you'd preferred to remain single. It's basically bullying you into marriage. And if it costs you your relationship with your parents, that might be better in the long run in any case. I was thinking of a dowry. The sons would get money to set themselves up for financial success, and the daughter gets money conditional upon marriage. I would invite them to an impromptu wedding ceremony in the backyard of your house and thank them for funding this special day. Exactly. I would much rather have a fantastic honeymoon or a house down payment than a one-day celebration. Honey, your family's being horrible and is using a BS double standard. They didn't expect your brothers to use that money for a big wedding, but you must? They would have helped you get a home if it was through marriage, but your brothers didn't have that condition and just got the money. And they expect you to have a huge wedding so that they can have fun. Saving up money is the responsible thing to do, and they're being bad parents if they'd rather you spent it all on a huge wedding you don't even want. I'm male 28, have been with my girlfriend 23 for 4 years, living together for 3. I pay all of our bills, only requiring my girlfriend to keep up with house chores. She has a part-time job where she works 3 days a week as a cashier at a beauty salon. She makes minimum wage, and all of her money goes to her hair, nails, and clothes. I've never minded this. I like it when my girlfriend feels good and looks good. A month ago, we found out that she was 6 weeks pregnant. We're both shocked-ish. We didn't make a big effort to prevent it and immediately told our family the news. We're renting an apartment, but it's extremely cheap, way below my budget. I was planning to purchase a house within the next year, as I've been able to save a lot, especially since I'm a frugal person. Unfortunately, I was laid off 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, I've saved enough to easily live without working for at least a year. The plan obviously was not to wait a year before getting a new job. I immediately started searching again. However, my girlfriend took the news badly and was even mad at me. She was distant and refused to talk to me because she thought I wasn't taking things seriously enough. I told her that we, including the baby, were fine and that finances were still good. My girlfriend doesn't know how much money I made or how much I've saved. This is because at my previous job, she knew how much I made and was always begging me to make big purchases and asking for money. I started keeping my income and savings from her because she's not good with planning for the future financially. On Thursday, my girlfriend came into our bedroom sobbing and told me that she thought she lost it. I offered to take her to the hospital, and she told me her mother was outside and would be taking her. I offered to go with her, and she told me she only wanted to be with her mother. I let them go and tried to keep myself from having a panic attack the whole time I waited. When she came home that night, she confirmed that she had a loss and that it must have been from stress. We held each other and cried that night. In the morning, I noticed she was crying again. She started apologizing and told me she had a termination. I was shocked and hurt and in disbelief. I told her to get her stuff and leave. She begged me some more before I, very calmly, pushed her out of my room and closed the door. I heard her crying and moving things around for about an hour before she left the apartment. I haven't spoken to her since. Her sister ended up calling me and telling me I was a horrible person for kicking her out after going through such a traumatic event. Is this not traumatic to me? She told me my girlfriend had to do this because she knew we weren't financially prepared. I let her sister know that I wasn't worried about finances and that it still didn't justify her getting rid of our baby without my input. Now I'm faced with telling my family what happened. Am I really wrong? Everyone's the idiot here. Obviously, she should have talked to you about it, but if my partner was laid off and didn't worry about it, I would also not think it's a good time to have a child. You can't trust your girlfriend with the knowledge of how much you have in savings and what your income is, but you were going to bring a child into the world with her? This doesn't sound like a breakup. That was only about her decision here. It sounds like you're both better off apart. Quite frankly, it's good you didn't bring a child into such a dysfunctional relationship. I agree. You and she are very badly matched. You don't trust her enough to let her know the full extent of your earnings and savings. And why? Because she can't be trusted to view that money the same way you do. I'm sorry for your sorrow. This is going to be for the best in the long run because this woman doesn't share your approach to the business of being in a long-term partnership. I, female 28, got a job when I was 17 and lived at home, saving as much as I could until I was 26, at which point I bought a small apartment for myself with a small mortgage that I could afford, whether I rent it or not. It has 2 rooms, one bigger with an ensuite and the other a single. I don't want to live alone for safety reasons, so I posted about getting a roommate, them having the ensuite. I got many messages, but they usually left the conversations when people found out that I was the landlord. I was very upfront that I wanted clean, tidy, organized, quiet, and non-drinking people, and my sister said that that was probably sending a toxic message since I was also the landlord. So I stopped mentioning that, and very shortly after I found people. They were a really nice engaged couple, female 29 and male 28, and though I wouldn't say we're close best friends, we are friendly, having dinner together sometimes, and the living situation has been really nice. The rent was on the cheaper side of average in our area. We split bills, streaming and internet, etc., but they didn't know I was the landlord. I will fully admit I can be strict. I hate things being messy, disorganized, or loud, and especially since I'm the owner, I want things sorted out quickly to avoid damage. So a few times I've scheduled checks to get things rolling if they're being pushed aside, and mentioned I might have to complain if things weren't tidied up properly. Recently, the girl had some health issues and has been working less, which means they've been struggling with rent payments. Again, I don't need their money to pay off the mortgage, but I have been using it to help give me some extra cash. I decided to come clean and said that I was the landlord and that I'd cut the rent payments entirely until she got better and found stable work again. They were nice about it and took the deal until she got better. Then they moved out last month, and I went on the search for new roommates. They started trashing me to everyone that they knew about how I lied about being the landlord, was a strict pain-in-the-butt witch, was trying to steal their money in a cost of living crisis to pay off my debts, etc. Word has gotten around, and I've actually stopped taking inquiries. Some of my friends and family members are saying that I was an idiot and should have been honest about it from the get-go. Others are saying I didn't owe them that information and ended up doing them a favor. I don't really know what to believe. Was I the idiot? Edit. They were paying for a single room together, like what someone alone would have been paying. It wasn't doubled because they were 2 people. I didn't need the extra money. I just wanted to live with people to feel safer at home. What I was doing was legal where I am. I checked beforehand. No, I wasn't ridiculously strict. They could have a drink, just not parties in big groups. And I did give good timelines for any inspections far above the minimum requirement. Okay, let's look at this differently. There's someone happy with the rent cost and happy with the rules. They sign up papers and live without knowing that their roommate is the landlord. They get by fine for a long time. Then they learn that they were living with the person who owns the flat and go crazy about it. If you're not legally required to disclose who the landlord is when renting out in your country, then you're not the idiot. Ask yourself why someone would be fine with paying that amount of rent and becoming friends with their roommate, but the moment they learn the truth, it's not fine? Because they'd feel entitled to your assets, and even if they pay below average rent, they would consider you ripping them off and start to guilt trip you into lowering rent, and would consider that they might be such a good friend to you that you need to let them live together for free forever and babysit their upcoming babies too, and pay for their college as you're such a big homeowner. Next time, just say that you're the landlord and don't befriend your roommate too much, or they'll want to become your best friend to live for free. Come on, dude. Are you entirely socially inept? The answer is that this changes the social dynamic entirely. Any sane person understands this immediately. Being friends with someone and being friends with someone with whom you have to pay money to are two completely different things. OP has inherent power over that other person, something she omitted, and the other person feels like they're entirely justified by the way being lied to by that omission. They're not friends, they're landlord and tenant. Newsflash, people don't like being lied to, and also don't like sudden changes in power dynamics completely out of their control. 100% that the tenant feels betrayed and lied to, which is both true. You are the idiot, OP, and quite so. I have a coworker, let's call her Pam, who I've worked with for a couple of years now, and she's a lovely woman. She's very pretty and good at her job, and I value her as a coworker and a friend. She got divorced about a year ago and started getting back into dating in the last few months. Nothing serious, though. I'm widowed and have a preteen child. I'm definitely not opposed to dating another single parent as I have before. The problem is her kid is honestly unbearable to me. It's hard to say how much it is his fault. It's hard to say how much of it is his fault. He does have ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, and I suspect some other things as well. He's a young teen, but regularly throws tantrums you'd expect of a much younger child. He's been suspended from school multiple times, and she's had to have him come to work with her to keep an eye on him. He always gets into trouble here, as well. As far as non-predators go, he's the worst kid I've ever been around. About a month ago, we were at a work function, and dating came up. She asked me if I was seeing anybody. I told her no, and she brought up us going out as we get along so well. I gave her the whole "we work together and I don't crap where I eat" thing, and she let it go, but mentioned how a lot of our coworkers had met at work, and it worked out for them. For what it's worth, we are in different departments and work on different floors. So while I see her at work a decent amount, it's not really a working together and seeing each other often thing. The weather's been beautiful the last week, and yesterday, management let us all off an hour early to enjoy the weather. A lot of us went to the place next to the store. She brought us up repeatedly, and I gave her the same thing. She then pushed me and said she didn't believe me. She asked if I didn't like to date other people, and I told her, no, it's not that. She kept pushing, and I was honest that her kid was just too much. Not that I don't think I could handle a tough kid, but I have no desire to put up with that for a kid who's not mine. From what little I know about ODD, it doesn't seem like a phase, and I'm not signing my kid up to deal with that long term. Let's just say she didn't take it well. She snapped at me about talking about her kid and left shortly after. Today I'm working from home, but feeling a little guilty about it all. Was I an idiot who should apologize or just let it go? Not the idiot. You tried to sidestep, but she wouldn't let you. This probably ends your friendly relationship, and you have to think if you want to bring this proactively to HR or not. At the very least, maybe let your boss know so he knows the full story if HR starts asking questions. Please shoot HR an email about the interaction just to be safe. Frankly, her aggressive investigation of why you wouldn't date her was inappropriate in the first place. No one is entitled to an explanation as to why you don't want to date them. You could have refused, but she was so pushy. I don't think she would have accepted it. She's going to think less of you, though. It's probably not her or her son's fault that he's like this. You are the idiot. It may be your point of view, but come on, man. Don't break a mother's heart by asking her to put the blame for her loneliness on her kid. She can't and won't divorce her kid. She must know her kid's a lot to put up with, but it's still hard coming from someone else and someone she likes. I would have made up another reason. How would you feel if someone said something ugly about your kid? She pushed, but you didn't have to be ugly. A little bit of in-law context first. One of my brothers-in-law, Joe, is married to Jesse, his childhood best friend. Jesse was always like another son and brother in the family. He's known them basically his whole life and had a crappy childhood with his biological family. So my in-laws basically adopted him. He even lived with the family for a while. Because of this, Jesse was always included as a member of the family, as a unit, and not just an in-law. Honestly, Jesse's my mother-in-law's favorite child, LOL, and I think he's the favorite brother in the family. I always knew this. My husband was upfront about it when we dated, and I know the rest of his siblings have been upfront with their partners as well. I don't take it personally that Jesse's treated like a son or a brother in the family, but I'm a daughter-in-law and sister-in-law. It makes sense to me. We don't have the same long history where they watched me grow up, and I never lived with my husband's family. Another brother-in-law, Frankie, is married to Emma. Of all the fellow in-laws, Emma's the one who has a problem with Jesse being just another son or brother, but us being more clearly in-laws. She's complained about it to a number of us fellow in-laws. We've all explained that we're cool with it because we understand that Jesse's grown up with the family. Emma likes to vent to me a little more. I asked her once why she married Frankie if she was so bothered by it when I knew he told her. She told me she had assumed that it was only at first, and after a while, everything was the very same. She didn't really believe they called Jesse their son and brother, and not sister-in-law or brother-in-law, and on she went, whining about it. She heard Jesse was written into the will alongside the children. I don't know if that's true, and I don't really care, and she was so outraged. It gets annoying. The others find it old too, mainly because she likes to get us alone to do this. It was Joe and Jesse's birthday, and everyone was celebrating when Emma decided to track me down to complain about it some more, and she really sounded like a child. I asked her to stop, and she told me she needed to get it off her chest. I tried moving away, but she walked and talked. Then I rolled my eyes, and she was like, "OMG, stop being such a witch." And I told her I was tired of her whining. She told me I should be more understanding and supportive, and us unwanted in-laws need to stick together. I don't feel unwanted. I just know I'm not their daughter or sister. She demanded an apology from me later that night. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's odd that everyone's so touchy about the parents' in-laws' affections and why their relationship with Jesse took so much acceptance in the first place. Emma's not respecting your boundary, so in place of an apology, you could let her know again that you're not going to be around complaining about a family member. She's jealous and there's no changing that. Just tell her that it's a problem for her and her only because you don't feel the same way. Next time she tells you she needed to get it off her chest, have a printout of a bunch of therapists and hand it to her with an "I'm not qualified to deal with your obsession and neurosis about this subject. I suggest you contact a professional." End of discussion, and walk away.